Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. It all started on an ordinary Sunday evening, rain softly tapping against the window, the kind of weather that makes you want to curl up with someone you love. My husband, Daniel, and I were sipping coffee in silence, just enjoying the peace. We've been married for 7 years. Like any couple, we've had ups and downs, but that night, something unexpected happened that changed everything. Daniel looked at me with a strange intensity in his eyes, the kind I hadn't seen in a long time. "I've been thinking about something," he said slowly, his voice lower than usual. He leaned in, and with a half smile, he whispered a fantasy he'd been keeping to himself. I won't lie, I was stunned. It was bold. Wild. Something way out of our comfort zone. I stared at him, not sure if he was serious or just testing my reaction. "I can't do that," I said honestly. "That's just not me." I expected him to get upset or maybe just laugh it off awkwardly. But instead, he smiled and nodded like he understood, and that's when things took an unexpected turn. He didn't argue. He didn't push. He simply stood up, kissed me on the forehead, and said, "Okay. But give me one night. Just trust me." I wasn't sure what to make of it. Was he planning something? Or had I just shut down a part of him he really needed me to understand? What happened next caught me completely off guard. It wasn't anything I imagined, not even close. It wasn't about the fantasy anymore, it was about love, trust, and the deep emotional connection we thought we'd already figured out. But as the night unfolded, I realized I didn't know my husband as well as I thought I did. This story isn't just about romance or one strange request, it's about what happens when two people who love each other hit a moment of complete misunderstanding, and how that moment can either break them or bring them closer than ever before. Have you ever faced a situation in your relationship where your partner revealed something that surprised you? Would you be open-minded, or would it scare you? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's have an honest, respectful conversation. There's no right or wrong, just real people with real experiences. And I'm curious, should I have trusted him from the start? What would you have done in my place? Vote in the poll and let me know. Trust me, you'll want to hear what Daniel did next. It left me speechless, and maybe, just maybe, it changed the way I see love and marriage forever. I didn't sleep much that night. My mind kept circling back to what Daniel had said. His voice, calm but unreadable, echoed in my head, "Just trust me." That line alone had so much weight. What exactly did he mean by it? And more importantly, what was he planning? This wasn't like him. Daniel was always open, always predictable in the best way. That night, though, there was something else behind his eyes, something I couldn't quite place. The next morning, I found him making breakfast like nothing had happened. Eggs, toast, coffee, the usual. He kissed me on the cheek, handed me a cup, and asked how I slept. I wanted to ask him 100 things. I wanted to ask if he was serious, if he was still thinking about that wild fantasy he shared. But something in his calmness made me hesitate. Maybe it was better to wait. Maybe he wanted to surprise me, or maybe he'd already let it go. But he hadn't. Over the next few days, Daniel became oddly attentive. He texted more during the day, left little notes around the house, brought home my favorite snacks, even made a playlist of songs we used to listen to when we first started dating. It felt like he was trying to pull me into something, but he never mentioned the fantasy again. That silence only made my curiosity grow. A week passed. Then, one evening, he came home with a small, gift-wrapped box. Nothing fancy, just plain silver paper and a simple bow. He handed it to me and said, "Wear this Friday night. And don't ask questions." I laughed nervously, thinking he was being playful. But when I opened the box, my hands trembled slightly. Inside was a beautiful black dress, sleek, elegant, a little more daring than my usual style. Alongside it was a small card that read, "Be ready at 8. I promise you'll understand everything." Now I was really confused. Was this just a date night? Or was this part of the fantasy he mentioned? And why all the mystery? Part of me wanted to cancel. I didn't like surprises, especially when they were tied to something I had already said no to. But the other part of me, the part that remembered how Daniel looked at me with such quiet confidence, was too intrigued to walk away. That whole week, my emotions were on edge. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't think straight. I started questioning everything. Had I misunderstood him? Was I being too quick to judge? Or was he planning something so big, so personal, that I couldn't possibly imagine the impact it would have on us? By Friday, I was full of nerves. I put on the dress, did my hair, and stood in front of the mirror, staring at my own reflection like I was about to meet a stranger. When the doorbell rang at exactly 8 p.m., I opened it, and what I saw left me frozen. But I'll tell you what happened next in the following part of this story. Before that, tell me, would you have opened that door? Or would you have walked away? Let me know in the comments. And if you think you know where this story is going, I promise, you don't. Daniel wasn't at the door. Instead, standing there was a driver dressed in a sharp black suit, holding a small white envelope with my name on it. He gave a polite nod and handed it to me without saying a word. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. Tonight is about more than just a fantasy. It's about trust, vulnerability, and us. Just let go, for once. I'll be waiting. No address. No instructions. The driver simply gestured toward a sleek black car parked at the curb. I hesitated, looking back into the house, my heart racing. Was I being foolish for going along with this? But something told me to follow through. So I did. The ride felt longer than it was. Every turn, every red light made my stomach twist. We finally stopped in front of a quiet, upscale boutique hotel I'd never been to before. The driver opened the door and nodded again, offering no answers. Inside the lobby, I was met by a woman with a kind smile who seemed to be expecting me. She guided me to an elevator and pressed the top floor button without saying a word. The doors opened to a softly lit suite. Candles flickered. Soft jazz played in the background. And Daniel stood in the center of the room, dressed sharp, holding a glass of wine, watching me as if I were the only thing in the world. I expected him to rush over, kiss me, say something dramatic. But he didn't. He just said, "You made it," like we were in the middle of some carefully planned scene. I asked him, again, what this was all about. His response shocked me. It's not about the fantasy. It's about what it brought up in you. About us being honest with who we are, completely. I want to know you without filters. And suddenly, the real conflict started to surface. This wasn't about a strange idea or a wild night. It was about our marriage. The quiet distance that had slowly crept in. The things we hadn't talked about. His fantasy had only cracked open the surface. What lay beneath was far more complicated and vulnerable than either of us had expected. Do you think I should have walked away or stayed and listened? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And what do you think Daniel is really trying to show me? Your predictions might surprise even me. I stood there in the middle of the suite, unsure of whether to sit down, ask more questions, or just run. My heartbeat was loud enough to drown out the soft jazz playing in the background. Daniel still hadn't moved from his spot. He was studying me carefully, almost like he was trying to figure out what I was thinking before I said a word. And I hated that part of me wanted to fall into whatever this was, while another part screamed to protect myself. He finally walked over, handed me the wine, and said, "Before you say anything, just hear me out." His voice was calm, but there was a weight behind it. This isn't just about a fantasy. That was only the beginning. It made me realize how many things we don't talk about anymore. How many parts of ourselves we keep hidden even from each other. He paused. I wanted tonight to feel different. Honest. Scary, even. His words hung in the air, and I didn't know what to say. Because deep down, I knew he was right. Somewhere between work, routines, bills, and family expectations, we'd lost the version of us that used to talk about everything. We'd become polite strangers in some ways, comfortable, yes, but surface level. Was this night supposed to break that wall? Then he pulled out a journal, his journal. Something he'd never shared with anyone, not even me. I've written things here for years, he said quietly. Things I wanted to say but couldn't. About us. About me. About what I've needed, what I've missed. It's all in here. He placed it in my hands like it was fragile. Read it, he whispered, but only if you're ready. I opened it slowly, unsure what I'd find, memories, regrets, hopes, maybe even confessions. And as my eyes scanned the first few lines, I felt my chest tighten. This wasn't just about fantasy. This was about vulnerability on a level we'd never touched. He had poured everything into these pages, and now it was up to me to face it all. But just then, before I could get past the first paragraph, my phone buzzed. One message. A name on the screen I hadn't seen in years. And in that moment, everything started to spin. What do you think was in the message? Was it connected to Daniel, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments. The real twist is coming, and trust me, you won't see it coming. I stared at the name on my phone screen, my fingers frozen. It was Alex. A name I hadn't heard or let myself think about for years. My college ex. The only person besides Daniel who had ever gotten that close to me emotionally. We hadn't spoken since before I got married. No calls. No texts. Nothing. And now, out of nowhere, there it was, hey. I know it's been a long time, but I need to talk to you. It's important. I felt the air leave my lungs. I looked up and saw Daniel watching me, his expression still soft, still trusting, completely unaware of the storm that had just been set off. I quickly turned the phone over, trying to hide the reaction on my face, but he noticed. Of course he did. Who was that? He asked gently, but I could tell his curiosity was turning into concern. Just, someone from a long time ago, I said, avoiding eye contact. It's nothing. He nodded slowly, but the air in the room shifted. I could feel it. That delicate space of honesty we'd been trying to create was already cracking. And I hadn't even opened his journal yet. But my thoughts weren't on the journal anymore. They were on that message. Why now? What could possibly be so important after all these years? And why did it come tonight, of all nights? I excused myself and stepped into the bathroom. My hands trembled as I reread the message. Then, as if he sensed I needed more, another message popped up. It's about Daniel. Please, just hear me out. My stomach dropped. How did Alex know Daniel? They had never met. At least, that's what I believed. But the words sat there on the screen, staring at me like a puzzle I hadn't even realized I was supposed to solve. My mind started racing. Could this night have been planned for another reason? Was Daniel hiding something, too? The truth was, I didn't know who to trust anymore, not even myself. I walked back out into the suite. Daniel was still there, now seated on the edge of the bed, waiting. His journal lay open beside him, untouched. He looked up and smiled faintly, but I couldn't return it fully. My mind was split between the man in front of me, offering his deepest truths, and the voice from the past now whispering something I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. Should I tell Daniel about the message? Should I respond to Alex? Or should I pretend none of this ever happened and go back to reading the journal, like nothing had changed? Every option felt dangerous now. So I ask you, what would you do? Would you trust your husband's words, or follow the warning from someone you once loved? Comment below with your thoughts. This story just took a turn, and your guesses might be closer to the truth than you think. I took a deep breath and made a choice. I handed the phone to Daniel. His eyes flickered across the screen, his expression unreadable as he read the messages from Alex. The room fell painfully silent. I braced myself for anger, questions, anything, but instead, he handed the phone back and said, "I was wondering when that would happen." That stopped me cold. What? Daniel stood up and walked over to the window, his back turned to me. "Alex reached out to me a few months ago," he said quietly. I didn't respond. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought I could fix what's been broken between us on my own. But, he said he had information that could hurt you. Or us. I didn't know if it was true or just drama from the past, so I ignored it. I felt dizzy. "Why didn't you tell me?" He turned back to me. "Because I didn't want this night to be about him. I wanted it to be about us finally facing everything we've kept buried." He picked up the journal again and opened it to a bookmarked page. Page 42. "Read it." I hesitated, then sat down and flipped to the page. The entry was written a year ago. It talked about the moment he realized I was pulling away from him emotionally, and that he feared I had feelings for someone else. And the twist. He believed I never got over Alex. He even blamed himself for not being enough for me. Reading his pain, in his own words, hit me like a wave. I looked up, tears in my eyes. "You thought I wanted to be with him again?" "I didn't know," he said honestly. "But I didn't want to ask. I just wanted to try to be the man you could still open your heart to." I walked to him and hugged him tightly, the tension between us finally breaking. "I never stopped loving you. Not for a second." And for a moment, it felt like the story could end right there, us, holding each other, all the walls down. But then, my phone buzzed again. A photo. It was a picture of me and Daniel, taken through a window, from outside the hotel room. A new message followed. "You don't know the full story. He's not who you think. What would you do now? Would you trust what you feel, or follow the truth, no matter how dark it might get?" Drop your thoughts in the comments. The truth is still unfolding. I stared at the photo on my phone, my heart pounding so loud I could barely think. Someone had taken that picture from outside the hotel room. That meant someone was watching us right now or earlier tonight. I showed Daniel, and his face went pale. He reached for his phone and started scrolling, trying to find something. Then he said, "There's more to this. I think I need to tell you the full truth about Alex." He confessed that Alex had reached out before, not just once, but several times over the past year. At first, it was subtle, old photos, cryptic messages, nothing solid. Daniel ignored him, thinking it was jealousy or unfinished business from my past. But recently, Alex had hinted that he had proof of something Daniel had done. Something that would make me question everything. Daniel didn't know what it was, but he feared it would tear us apart. "I thought if I could get us back to a real place of love," Daniel said, "it wouldn't matter. I didn't want a ghost from your past to ruin what we still had." Tears welled in my eyes. "You should have trusted me enough to talk about it." "I know," he said softly. "That's my failure. I called Alex. I had to." He picked up after 2 rings. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "So, you finally saw it," he said. "I didn't want to do it this way. But you need to know what kind of man you married." He sent one last message, an old photo of Daniel with someone else. A woman. It was dated from years ago, during a time Daniel had told me he was traveling for work. But before I could spiral into doubt, Daniel spoke. "That's Emily," he said. "My sister. I didn't tell you about her because we had a falling out years ago. She's private, And, it's complicated. But I didn't cheat. I swear to you. The relief hit me slowly, but deeply. I believed him. The pieces finally started fitting. Alex, still bitter, wanted to break us. He'd twisted something innocent to look like betrayal. We blocked Alex's number. We agreed to go home, talk more, and work through everything honestly this time. That night didn't just reopen wounds, it forced us to actually clean them, face them, and finally begin to heal. So, this wasn't a story about a wild fantasy at all. It was about trust. About choosing to stay when it's easier to run. About realizing that love isn't always perfect, but when two people are willing to fight for it, it's real. Now it's your turn. Would you have believed Daniel? How do you feel about the ending? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like a sequel to see what happens next in our story, let me know. Your voice matters here.